Ever click buy now on something from halfway across the world and just wonder how it gets to you? It seems like magic, right? Well, behind that magic is a massive, and I mean massive, trillion-dollar industry that is changing faster than you can imagine. So let's get into it.
Welcome to Salon. Today, we're jumping right into the incredibly complex world of cross-border e-commerce logistics. It's one of those hidden engines that truly powers the global economy. And our guide for today is the 2025 China Cross-Border E-commerce Logistics Industry Research Report. It's a brand new, really comprehensive study from the international consulting firm CIC. They've crunched all the numbers from 2020 all the way through 2024 to give us a super clear picture of where all this is heading. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the sheer scale of this new reality. And trust me, the number is absolutely mind-boggling. And there it is, 2.8 trillion yuan. That's the market size for China's cross-border logistics in 2024 alone. That's a jump of over 4% from the year before. But here's the thing, that massive number, it's really only half the story. The real action is in how the game itself is being completely rewritten. Right, so how is this massive industry actually changing? Well, that brings us to the new rules of competition. Because it's not just about being the biggest or the fastest anymore. Nope, it's about being the smartest and the most reliable. For the longest time, the game was pretty simple, right? It was all about price wars. Who could ship it for the absolute lowest cost? That was the old playbook. But the new way? It's a whole different ballgame. It's all about something called supply chain certainty. We're talking predictability, reliability, just knowing that package is going to get from a warehouse in one country to a customer's doorstep in another without any drama. And you don't just have to take my word for it. This quote, pulled directly from the CIC report, really hits the nail on the head. It says competition is shifting from efficiency to overall supply chain certainty. So what does that really mean? It means having one fast flight or one quick process just doesn't cut it anymore. The whole system, from end to end, has to be predictable. So what's fueling this huge shift? Well, the report points to 4 big drivers. First, you've got governments all over the world getting much stricter with compliance rules. Second, you have technology. Think AI and IoT, making everything way smarter. Third, you've got the demands of retail giants like Temu and Shein, who are forcing a whole new level of responsiveness. And finally, there's just this massive, explosive growth in new emerging markets, creating totally new opportunities. But, a change this big doesn't happen in a neat little bubble. It comes with a whole new set of challenges, some really major hurdles that every single company in this space has to figure out how to get over. So, of course, the big question any strategist is asking right now is, what are the biggest risks out there? Where are the landmines? And this breaks it down really well. First up, compliance risk is a huge one. The days of those low-value tax exemptions in Europe and the US, yeah, they're coming to an end, which adds a ton of cost and complexity. Then you've got constant pressure on cost and time, especially with freight prices going all over the place, and, frankly, pretty weak infrastructure in some of these new markets. Throw in some geopolitical friction and platforms like Amazon changing their rules on a dime, and yeah, you've got a pretty tricky environment to operate in. Okay, so that sounds like a lot of risk, I know. But here's the cool part. For every one of those challenges, there's a massive opportunity hiding right behind it. So let's flip the script and look at where the smart money is going, the next growth frontiers. With all that tricky stuff we just talked about, you're probably wondering, okay, so where are the openings? Where's the real growth going to come from? Well, the report flags 4 absolutely huge areas. First off, emerging markets. Places like Southeast Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. The demand there is just exploding. Second, think about overseas warehouses. They're not just for storage anymore. They're becoming these full-on service hubs for things like processing returns or even doing repairs. Third, the digital upgrade is a big one. Using AI for things like route planning, it's a total game changer for efficiency. And finally, green logistics. Seriously, sustainability isn't just a nice to have anymore, it's a real competitive edge. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. The sheer size of the market, how the competition is changing, the risks, the opportunities. Now let's boil it all down to the 3 things you absolutely need to remember for 2025. Okay, if you walk away with nothing else from today's explainer, just remember these 3 things. Number 1, certainty is the new currency. Number 2, the compliance crackdown is very, very real. And number 3, look to new markets.
Let's just quickly break each one of those down. Okay, first up, certainty is king. In this new world, businesses will gladly pay more for a logistics partner who can flat out guarantee a package will arrive when they say it will. It's not about the rock bottom price anymore, it's about predictability. It's about taking the risk and the guesswork out of the equation. Second, you absolutely cannot ignore the compliance crackdown. Those little tax loopholes that helped fuel a lot of the early growth, they're closing, and they're closing fast. If you want to play in big markets like Europe or the US, you have to have your regulatory house in perfect order. It's not just a good idea anymore, it's your ticket to entry. And finally, our third big takeaway, look to new markets. While the established players like Europe and North America get more crowded and complex, the next real explosion in e-commerce growth is happening right now in places like Southeast Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. The companies that get in there and build out the logistics backbone, well, they're the ones who are going to win the future. So, it's pretty clear, right? The global logistics game is changing right under our feet. Success is no longer just about moving boxes, but about managing data, risk, and relationships all across the globe. From all of us here at Salon, we wish you Manian Xinglong.